watching a movie and we're enjoying the plot and all the acting that is going on, we come to the conclusion and we see the words on the screen, the end. Is that the way it happens for us in this life? Is that all there is? The end? Hi, this is Barry Phillips with 10-Minute Torah, day number 2 of Torah portion Vayikra, Leviticus. And the word Vayikra meaning, and he called. Now let's look at a couple of things before we get into the first offering that is to be placed upon the altar. It says that Yah called to Moshe. Where is he calling from? He used to call to Moshe from the top of Mount Sinai. Then he called to Moshe from the tent of meeting, the Ohel Moed. Now he's calling from inside the sanctuary, the tabernacle or the Mishkan, from over the mercy seat of the Ark of the Covenant. The voice of Yah is emanating from the inner sanctum of his presence inside a tent. And Moshe hears him. Yah is still calling to us from that same place. Yes, and I mean he calls to us from the Levitical system. It's still in place. It still will have a place. It's never been replaced. So we need to learn about it. Now, again, as we mentioned yesterday, in verse number 2, it says that when you bring a korban of yourself, when you bring something that represents you, you are to bring it from the livestock or the herd or the flock. Let's begin with the livestock. We're talking about cattle predominantly here. Hebrew, the word is behemoth. And the behemoth, it represents the animal instinct that is primarily focused on survival and procreation. Everything down to a bug has this inward instinct that it needs to participate in the cycle of life, the procreation cycle of things. I live to bring about another generation before I die. Sadly, much of humanity has also fallen into that cycle of life. We live until we die, and then it's the end. There's nothing else. If that were the case, then when one would come down to the end, if there was any ability to do so within them, they would be scratching and clawing and clinging to every desperate breath of life, scared to death that once this last breath is taken, the heart or the brain stops, and the end has come, that they will never have anything else. That's just it. It's tragic when someone that is young dies. We often hear they died too young. No one wants to die, that is to face the cessation of physical life, unless there is a higher realm, something more, and death is but stepping across a threshold, a thin veil, and stepping across that veil into somewhere else. That there is hope, and there is life that is yet to be embraced, and to the best of our understanding from Scripture and from the testimony of those who have peered at that veil, perhaps stuck a foot or so across and returned, there's nothing to fear. So let's look at the offering then from the cattle. It says that you are to bring a male, a perfect one. Let him bring it to the door of the tent of appointment for his acceptance before Yahweh. So there has to be a transformation. We talked about that again yesterday, laying a foundation. The bringing of a bull, for example, a behemoth. This animal is about the elevation of ourselves, and it's also about the transformation of ourselves. We are being transformed from the lifestyle of merely completing a cycle of life. We get up in the morning to go about our jobs, our daily routines, the things that must be done. We eat, we drink, we move, we endeavor, we work, we accomplish, only to come home and to find a sense of security and rest until we hit the bed and fall asleep, to get up in the morning and repeat that cycle. If you have a job that you love, if you have a labor that allows you to be creative and something that you enjoy and embrace and you look forward to, that's one thing. But the vast majority of folks, I have found, go to jobs, it's like, it's what I do. It's something I can do. Well, it's a living. Well, it puts food on the table. There's no joy about it. There's no living involved. It's what you do to survive. If you don't have the job, you don't eat. If you don't eat, you don't live. You have no shelter. You have no transportation. It's all about earning an income to live on. There's more to life than that. Bringing oneself to the altar and presenting it there as from the herd, a behemah. It is, Yah, elevate my living, transform my living to something that has essence, it has substance, it has quality, it has a sense of some value or worth about us. There are those who simply live to procreate. And again, there is a worldly perversion of that to where it's applauded as to how many you can procreate with, how many partners you can procreate with. There's no glory in that. There is the indulgence of the flesh in the acts of procreation without any anticipation of a procreated offspring. There's no glory in that. And so we need to transform our mere instinct of survival into the grace of perseverance and overcoming through patient enduring. I just don't want to survive. I want to break through. I want to overcome. Life is filled with all sorts of challenges from all sorts of arenas. We all know that. But then to have the quality of Yah's grace. Now, what is that? Well, it's His unmerited favor. Well, that's a good Sunday school translation or interpretation of the word, but what it actually comes down to, it is the empowerment of Yahweh entrusted to us to grant us the authority and the power to overcome what's in front of us. Yah calls us to a certain thing, He anoints us for a certain thing, and then He graces us with His endowment of power and strength to get the thing done. That's His grace. It's His favor. It's His hand of favor upon us. And then it's that quality of favor then that opens doors, that shows us where the gate is in the wall, that enables us to break through what is before us as a barrier. So we are then refined and we are renewed in our minds to go to a higher level of understanding and insight about life. My life is not just for me to survive. My life is to improve the life of myself and those that are around me. And we're not talking about the accumulation of material things necessarily. Material things, we all know, they're nice. But it's the quality of building up someone's character, of encouraging someone through difficulty, holding the hand of someone that is in need of compassion and tenderness. In the book of Romans, Rav Shaul writes to us, and he says this in familiar words: "For the mind of the flesh is death, but the mind of the Spirit is life and peace." That's Romans 8 and verse 6. Verse 7, "Because the mind of the flesh is enmity toward Elohim, for it does not subject itself to the Torah of Elohim, neither indeed is it able, and those who are in the flesh are unable to please Elohim, but you are not in the flesh, but in the Spirit. God's called us to living according to His Spirit. That means lay the flesh on the altar. We'll go a little further on this tomorrow. Until then, shalom.